Good evening. Okay then.
Ghost. Y'all act like y'all seen a ghost or something, man.
For real. You see you in the ages, boy. How you doing?
Hey man, I'm good and blessed. How y'all doing?
Wonderful, wonderful. Let's just make sure we start this thing off right. Good evening to all of you that are on with us today. Ink to Ink, Incarceration to Incorporation. All of our hosts are on with us today, and we have a special guest that we are getting ready to announce and let him just take over and share. But first of all, how y'all doing today? I haven't seen AB. Tell us what's going on a little bit about with your AB.
Man, actually right now, boy, I feel nervous right now. I feel like my first day on the job, man. First day on the job, like first day going to school, first day doing everything. But yeah, I've been grinding. You know what I'm saying? You know, you all know I opened up a fashion and art gallery. You know what I'm saying? Right here where I live at in North Carolina. That thing been doing good. You know. I also opened up a store last year, so that's been doing good too. So I've been busy, man. But I want to thank you all before we even get on with the show, man. Thank y'all for holding the show down. Y'all been doing an awesome job. Y'all been doing a remarkable job, man. I can't thank you all enough, man, for being able to do this every Friday. Marie, thank you for being on, taking care of business. Of course, Joyce Campbell, Joyce Hall. Appreciate y'all, man, for holding it down. It's been a hectic few months, so I know you've seen a ghost. You know what I'm saying? I'm a ghost today, but I'm in good spirits. I'm tired. You know what I'm saying? Also, with the landscaping and all that, so I'm tired, but we gonna do this show. Joyce Campbell, you've been doing an awesome job, man, hosting it and bringing it to the light, man. I'm gonna turn it over to you and thank y'all for coming on. Dr. Melvin, thank you for coming on. I know I didn't get a chance to read the lineup, you know what I mean? So I'm gonna let y'all take the lineup and see what we got going on today. I know it's about education, being incarcerated. I guess incarceration behind the bars, how important it is to educate yourself, whether you're behind bars or whether you're outside dealing with somebody that's incarcerated, the education that you need to educate yourselves about prison recidivism and whatever that's going on in prison life. So, Julius Campbell, I'm gonna turn it over to you and let's get this thing started, man. I'm excited, y'all.
Well,
I'm
I'm glad to
excited.
hear that, man, for sure. But before we go on, I want definitely we got to hear from Julius Hall and also Marie. How y'all doing this afternoon?
I'm good. Ladies first. Go ahead, Marie.
What you saying, Mr. Hall?
I say, go ahead. He wanted to hear from you.
You can't hear me?
No, we can hear you.
How are you doing, sister?
Oh, I'm doing fine. Thank you for asking. Hello, everybody. This is Incarceration to Incorporate. And tonight is going to be a very, very good show. I'm waiting and anticipating to hear from Dr. Hayden to see what he has to say about this situation.
Okay.
So, Mr. Campbell, take it over.
Well, Julius got to say what he says. Julius, we got to hear from you.
She must have got a delay in her computer system because if she's been going in and out
It
all
is. My
night.
computer system is messing up really bad.
Yeah, we can see we got to get you a brand new computer and some internet over there. Anyway, I'm Julius
Thank
Hall. I am the founder of All Things Relevant Media, and this is one of the shows on this platform. We have about 11 shows on. This is our every Friday show. We are dedicated to giving information to those returning citizens so that they can uh, get back into the mainstream of life without any hiccups. We try to educate them on all fronts with information, resources, whatever it is that we can provide to them. Tonight we have education, and so it's the show is called Incarceration to Incorporation for a reason. We want to be role models for those returning citizens so they can see just what we do and just how we're staying out, and so that they can understand that once paid, a debt is no longer a debt, and that they can go anywhere from here. So with no further ado, Mr. Julius Campbell, who has become our moderator. And I'm glad because me and AB been so busy the last couple of months. We are so proud to have you, brother.
Thank you. Thank you. I
right.
appreciate that. Before I introduce Dr. Hayden, I want to remind our listeners, because first of all, I am so grateful for those that join us on Facebook and YouTube and even the radio station that we have out in Jessup. And just to let you know that we are grateful for when you come on and you're here to encourage us on, because why are we here? We want to give a platform to returning citizens to do what? Change the narrative. For so long, the narrative has been wrong. People have been saying that returning citizens, those that have been incarcerated, whether it was 20 years ago or 20 days ago, that when they come home, they go right back, the revolving door, recidivism, if you will. But that is not true. By a long shot, there are many men and women who are coming home and are doing great. Their transition is smooth, and we want to give them the platform so that they can share their stories with others, because so often people feel like they're doing this by themselves. And when we talk about incarceration, there is a gambit of sections as it relates to that, from our young people that we'll be talking about tonight to our older generation as well. And we thought it important or pertinent for us to bring on some professionals, Dr. Hayden to be exact, to share with us what is going on from the young perspective, because the juveniles are really coming right on out and going right into prison. And we want to do all we can to stop that. And we believe that education is the key, hence the title, Education, a Remedy to Incarceration. So as I introduce our guest tonight, his name is Dr. Melvin R. Hayden, and he's the Dean of Students. He's also over the Chatham County public school system, building bridges, high school and middle school. And what I would like for you to do, Dr. Hayden, is, again, if I didn't do you justice, tell us who you are and exactly what you do.
Okay. Well, hello, everybody. Good afternoon or good evening to everyone that's out there listening and to the panel. I really appreciate you guys having me on. Thank you for the invite, and I'm glad I accepted. My name is Dr. Melvin Hayden. I am the Dean of Students for Building Bridges Middle and High School in Savannah Chatham County Public School System. So I work with kids all the time, work with them all day, actually. And that's just so that we can understand a lot of where they come from, building those relationships, understanding where they've been and where they want to go, how we can help them get there. They come in with no hope, and our job is hopefully that they leave with a lot of hope, with a lot of resources, with a lot of encouragement and motivation. Most importantly, inspiring them in ways that they have not been inspired in the past, breaking the cycle from what they've seen on an everyday basis to knowing that they're different and that they can change what they see, what they've been exposed to. They can change the environment from within, and they can start looking at a different path from within. A lot of times you can't change the situation that you're in right at the moment, but you can know that there's something different because you're dealing and talking and communicating and communicating with people that have seen what you've seen, that has done what you've done, that has, persevered and gotten over the hump, as I should say, or gotten over the bridge to a better understanding of how that can look. You mentioned something about kids going in, our youth going in and out of jail. You see that they're going in and out mainly because there is a lack of resources in helping them understand that they don't have to keep going back, that the cycle can be broken. But a lot of times our kids have to see the value in the cycle being broken. There's a value system to going in and out of jail. There's a value system to having this reputation of going in and out of juvenile. There's a value system. They've built a street credibility around the value system of that cycle. And so it gives them that lost sense of understanding of who they are, that they can't get out of that. They can't break through that. And so what we're trying to do through education is allowing them to see that that's just a cycle. That it's not permanent, that it can be broken, and this is how you break it.
Awesome. Right. Awesome. Now we got a panel on, and I want y'all to pepper Dr. Hayden with those questions, those pertinent questions.
Okay.
I will start it off, and then Marie, you go in after me. Okay. Dr. Hayden, where does this passion come from? I mean, have you dealt with this personally? Have you had any encounters with the criminal justice system?
I had encounters when I was 17 in high school. I was visiting a friend in the projects, and I was on my way home. Actually, I was going my way home. We were getting ready for a track meet the next day, and there was a sweep in the projects that night. Dogs, policemen, helicopters, everything. And so I think I was on the ground. It was January. I was on the ground. It was cold. Nobody cared. I was trying to explain to them where I was going or what I was doing. They didn't care about that. And I had to be there for maybe 3 hours. And that experience, shifted how I thought about where I was, the environment I was in, how I got there, what I was doing, why I was there. I actually started to blame myself for being in a situation that I really had no control over. But it wasn't me to blame. It was what the environment created within itself was why for number one was why the police was there. Number two, I had no business with that, but because I was in the environment, I was considered to be a part of the culture that had been created because of the stigma that lies within what we call the projects.
And Dr. Hayden, I'm so glad that you said that, because I wanted to give an example. It's a young man that I know. He's very smart, very intelligent, right? Mm-hmm. But because of his environment, he's in the juvenile right now. Because of the environment, you said the stigmatism, they can be educated, they can go to school every day, but if they have to come back to the environment of gang violence or have to be a part of because of the community that they live in, then what?
Well, I can tell you right now that Building Bridges High School has graduated every single senior that has ever come through that building. Okay, wow. We send them back to their regular schools, and they've graduated when they come with us. I can tell you that what you're saying is true because I deal with young men who are exceptional in math and science, exceptional in reading and writing, exceptional in those particular subjects that can actually lead them to a better place or a better situation for themselves. What we struggle with and put in interventions and strategies in place is to allow them to see that what you're trying to do right now will only last for right now. I need you to see past what you're doing today. I know that when you open the refrigerator and there's nothing in there. I need you to see that what you're doing is going to create a situation where that fridge will never be empty again. I need you to see that when you walk outside, that there may be, gun violence. Like you said, there may be gun violence going on around what's going on with you. But I can tell you that there are neighborhoods. You can change your own neighborhood if you decide. But if you decide to leave your neighborhood, there are neighborhoods where this doesn't happen. This doesn't have to be the norm. I have to make them realize first and foremost that they've had a traumatic experience and we need to deal with that first. That what they're experiencing in life has has traumatic connotations. It has a trauma form. They've been introduced to a trauma that they don't recognize because the trauma that they're going through every day has become the norm. So I have to we have to reach them in a way that breaks that norm to say, this is not okay. This is not okay. And although I live here right now, I have to know that this is not okay.
With Dr. Hayden, and another thing, they take $95,000 to house one juvenile, right? So if they would take that money, as I've said before, and put it in the poverty-stricken neighborhoods, to build community centers, to help with food and the things that children may need to make them to make them want to go out at a young age to sell drugs because there's no food in the refrigerator. If they take that money and convert it back, don't you think things would be better?
Things would be better, but I'm going to go back and say they have to see the value in that. They have to see the value in saving that child's life but by putting more resources into what they're doing with them, as opposed to just providing the food, clothing, shelter. We are a society that's based on social services, and our social services are built on food, clothing, and shelter. Well, let me explain something to you. Food, clothing, and shelter, that comes from Maslow's hierarchy of needs. The bottom step is food, clothing, and shelter. However, food, clothing, and shelter is not the first need that any one child has to have. That food, clothing, and shelter is a resource that provides what you need to live. But if you're talking about what I need to survive, that's internal. And that's something that comes from the village that we talk about when we're raising our kids. And we need to use those resources to widen that village out.
Now, and I want you to explain that village, because so often we hear that terminology, but we don't see who that village really is. And as you're getting your answer together, let me share briefly. Caleb Chavez is watching us. He's watching us all the way from Dallas, and he's a counselor for the college WGU, an educator in his own right. And Ms. Tanya Howard Hall, she says, Dr. Hayden, good evening. She says, thank you for the job that you're doing with our students at Savannah-Chatham County. And then also we have Tanya Cummings. She's on, and she says that we have to know how to challenge the law so that we can be represented well, and also that we can help to change our environment. So I just wanted to share that, and there are others that are speaking, and I'm going to say what they're saying, but tell us a little bit about that village, how to become that village, and who is that village?
Okay. And you made me take my glasses off. All right. So the village that I'm talking about, it's all around us. We have to know where that village is. I'll use the example of working with my students. Well, first of all, my students come to the alternative school. They've already been kind of beat up a little bit from from traditional school because of, whether it be their own doing or just, the environment doing, or whatever the case may be. They, teaching them how to take responsibility for where they are right now at this moment in time. Second thing is rebuilding those relationships with the parents, rebuilding those relationships with the students. Students respond when their parents respond. And if the parents respond to us in the way that we are giving them the proper amount of respect and dignity that they deserve, then we'll gain the respect of the child. And once we regain the respect of the parent, and that they see that we're trying to help their student, and we're also trying to help them. It's a twofold thing. I never stop trying to help parents, because the parents have never stopped trying to help their kids, and I'm never stopped trying to help those kids as students. And so it becomes that revolving door. So whatever environment that student is from, or whatever that environment that child is living in, then we become incorporated into helping what that is, to make them understand we're here for them and it's better. Providing those resources, for people that we know are going to do the job, that are going to follow up, that are going to stick with it, that are going to say, hey, Julius, I'm here for you. You can call me. Let me know what you need. I know somebody that can help you. I'm gonna put you in contact with the right people. And if that doesn't work, come back to me. Because when we build relationships, 9 times out of 10, we're building the relationship with the person that we're talking to, that's in our face right now. And that person is a representation of everything I need, and basically everything that I need to do to get help.
Gotcha. Tanya,
you said earlier you said the most important thing when it comes to the youth and the community and the things and the resources that we try to get to the youth is we got to get everybody out of the norm. We into this whole, looking at it as a norm situation, but you broke down a whole lot of important tools. I try to listen and try to go back to a lot of the pointers that you made, which are very valid points that you made about the youth and how to get into their head and how to get them to listen and pay attention. And it comes from the parents. It comes from the parents. If they see that the parents are doing well, the parents are speaking well, the parents are on them about doing what it is that they need to do, then you got to teach them. You got to teach the youth how to be disciplined first, and the whole discipline comes from the family, for me. But that's a whole normal situation. So how do we get them out of the norm, thinking that it goes from this way to this way? How do we get them out of the norm, Dr. Hayden?
Well,
that's my thing.
Well, we teach them how to see the value in their successes. So a kid graduates high school, get his diploma. I can be honest and tell you that most kids don't see the value in that diploma because they can't cash that diploma in the moment they walk across the stage and go to the bank and get money. They have to see the value in what they've accomplished. So we have to teach them the value in that diploma and what it actually means. You can cash that diploma in the moment you get it, so that you can see the return that you've been working hard for. You can see the return that I've promised you. I promised you that when you graduate, this is what you're going to, be able to do. This is how you're going to be able to succeed. So you have to be able to see, showing them the value in that will allow them to see what you're talking about.
So what you're saying is you got to show them the success first. Let them know show them the success.
Show them the successes. Let them see let them see that there's value in their successes. Let them see there's a value in passing this class or graduating high school or even getting a small job. Let them see that those small successes will allow them to start building on what they see themselves as, not what Dr. Hayden sees them. Right. Showing them how they see themselves and how they can progress. I can tell you all day long, I see the value in you. I can tell you all day long how special you are. But if I show you the successes that you're accomplishing, then they start to self-actualize about themselves, and they see themselves succeeding, creating that motivation without you. And then you become a real mentor.
Dr. Hayden, Ivan B. Cohen, he is on, and he says, too often those doing the planning don't seek the input from the ones that they are trying to help. What do you have to say about that?
Yes, that's true. You have to incorporate the person that you're trying to help. What do you want? How do you see yourself? And it's like what I just said, allowing them to see themselves as what they think they'll be, and then giving them opportunities to see themselves as what they'll be. There a lot of times we throw a lot of careers in front of our kids that live in low income communities as careers to just do something. They're not really careers; they're jobs, you know. And so when kids gravitate to these skills, right? It's not necessarily may or may not be necessarily the skill that they want, but it's the skill that we're telling them that they need in order to be successful. Well, it backfires on us when we don't implement their skill, what they feel in their heart, what they know they can do, and then help them, and then help them or provide with them opportunity to develop the skill that they're feeling and not the skill that we think they should be.
Okay. Well, I have a hard question, and I want you. Well, it's not really a question, but it's a terminology or a phrase. I would like for you to explain. What is school to prison pipeline?
Okay. So school to prison pipeline has taken on many forms since it was first introduced. Okay. And so at one point in time, school to prison pipeline had everything to do with kids not attending. It had everything to do with attendance. It had everything to do with dropout. And so that created things in the community where they were getting in trouble, being incarcerated, things like that. Now, what we're saying is the school to prison pipeline has switched gears, and it's literally getting out of, going to prison. There's some form, shape, form of education going on there, and I'll just stick with juveniles because it's more rampant there in that particular case. Then they get out, and it's, follow me, it's what they learn and how they learn to survive in prison is what they bring out into to the regular school system. And so that pipeline is really when you say school to prison pipeline, you're transforming what school is to what that pipeline is, and then it's back and forth. It's a back and forth thing. It's in a situation where I get out of prison, and if it's enough of us that get out that go into the school, we literally change the environment of the school to look like where we just came from, because that's most comfortable to us. That's where we become comfortable. That's where we become to learn how to survive. And so I have done nothing but made the environment I came out of look like the environment that I went into, which means I go back to the environment I came out of, to the environment I made to look into. And so that pipeline looks the same. There is no difference.
So wasn't they at one time building prisons according to the fourth grade test scores?
The third grade reading scores, yes.
Third grade reading scores?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. Yeah. So if you miss that, the next opportunity that you get to change that, Mr. Hall, is in middle school. So if you miss that in middle school, hear me when I say this. Middle school is where you have no idea who you are, what you are, where you going, what you doing. You're looking at what people have and what you don't have. And middle school is the place where everybody's seeking their identity, which is why it's so easy for our young men and women to get involved in gangs. It's so easy for them to get involved in mischievous deeds. It's so easy for them to look at something and say, I want that at all costs, and then start to gravitate to that. Because of what you just brought up, it's the inability to not be able to read or not be able to be on the same level as my peers. And so I'd rather act up than, try to be smart around my peers.
My biggest thing is that I think that these kids need a strong role model, male role model in the schools, because that's one of the problems I have with the Beacon program, is that they judge a person based off of paper instead of character. Sometimes paper relates to your character, but if a person is doing things in the community and is an asset to the community and can come into the school system and make a difference, I think that they should be allowed on a case-by-case basis to make that difference to save some of these kids. Because one thing that I've noticed is that I don't see enough positive role models. I got kids, and I was with them for 5 hours a day. And I pay them to do work so they can get some value, understand what it is to work. I give them little jobs to do, but from listening to them, I see that I'm gonna need a whole lot of help. I am, and I've been dealing with these kids for 3 years, and I make a difference because I keep them out of trouble when they're with me. But I can't be with them 24/7. But we need that strong male role model in their lives, and it's more of us, people like the four men here, that got to include ourselves in these kids' lives. They're not our children. No, we didn't have them, but they are our responsibility to some degree.
And that's where the village come in at, Mr. Hall. That's where the village come in at. And then a lot of times, Dr. Hayden, the village stopped caring, because the reason why I say that, I'm speaking as a parent right now, because when you take and you try to discipline or say anything to someone's child to help, then you have the mother who don't want you to do that. So, the village, back when my grandmother was alive, Miss Maybell, them could say something to me, and guess what? We couldn't be disrespectful to our elders, and we had to listen and to be respectful. These kids now, a young lady saw me sitting on the porch she was no more than 14 years old, and she was still cursing, and she saw me. So the kids have lost respect for the adults, because I feel that sometimes the adult play the role. They say children should be seen and not heard, but here it is where we put children in adult situations. We allow our children, we smoke, we drink with our children, so they don't know. When you say that, stay in a child's place, well, mama, here it is, you allow me to smoke weed, so how do you want me to be a child? So I'm just saying.
No, you're right. We lost sight of what you're saying, because this is the direct correlation to when children was having children.
Right. Correct.
So when you have a 14 or 15-year-old, you're talking about 14 years later, she's still in her 20s, and she's raising an 11-year, 10-year-old. So not having that direction to understand, because a lot of parents took on that role to say, okay, well, look, you were grown enough to have a child, you were grown enough to take care of it, and that left a lot of young women just fending for themselves and trying to figure out how to do this without any direction. So I understand that that's what we see, because a lot of that is what we're dealing with. Mr. Hall brought up another good point in regards to when he said putting things on paper. Mr. Hall, I spend a lot of time teaching my young men how to represent themselves on paper. A lot of us can talk our way into a situation because we're good orators. We know how to represent ourselves. If you ask me a question directly, I can give you a question directly. And I think there's a lack of young men and women, or, Black men especially, who, don't know how to effectively present themselves in a written form. And that's discouraging. So when I see that, especially amongst my young men, and I'm asking them, hey, write something about, tell me about yourself, but I want you to write it down. And as I'm talking with them through the things they've accomplished, through the successes they've had, and they, the first thing they say, oh man, I didn't even know that. I didn't know that you wanted to know that, or I didn't know that was important. All of it is important. And once we learn, and when we can teach and learn how to present ourselves through the written language, then yes, a lot of things just open up, a lot of doors open up, because it's just like when you apply for a job, you have no idea what these people look like other than what they have on this piece of paper, and that's the same thing. We look at that, the resume, and it's like, we go yes and we go no. And a lot of that is because the person who wrote the resume was not able to explain themselves, in a way, or, in such a manner that would get the attention of the people that's actually reading it.
Dr. Hayden, let me remind the people of what we're talking about. Again, today's title is Education, Remedy for incarceration. And some of our listeners, it was Tanya Walker, I believe, she agrees with you that some of the reasons that we have these young people going to juvenile is because, as you stated, children having children. And let me clarify that definition again for some in our audience. School to prison pipeline. It is a tendency, school to prison pipeline is the disproportionate tendency of minors and young adults from disadvantaged backgrounds to become incarcerated because of increasingly harsh schools and municipal policies, as well as being unequally educated. Now, I brought that out because we've talked about a lot of the negative aspects. Now, what I want to do is switch gears and start talking about the positive. For there are a lot of A, programs, B, nonprofits, C, people that are trying to be of help. Julius Hall said it best when he says role models. And when we talk about role models, these role models have to be able to A, relate, and B, be relevant. Little old grandmama can't relate to the 90s babies or the 2000 babies and almost now the 2020s babies. So we got to have those that are relevant and relatable. So help us to understand some of those programs and peoples that are helping to fight this.
Okay, so I will say that I'm gonna just let me go back one tick into the education system. What the pandemic did when everybody had to go online and everybody was home and we had to do it a different way, we had to learn a different way and how to get information across. It actually helped us learn how a lot of children learn. Okay. Some kids did great online. Some kids have to be in the building. Some kids can do a mix of both. Some kids can watch a teacher on the laptop and get it and understand it. Other kids need to be, in the classroom getting hands-on instruction. So before then it was traditional. And now it has broadened the doors, opened the doors up so where we can actually, learn. We're learning we're learning a different way in how to educate our kids through the pandemic and what happened. So the school system actually had to change courses and how it taught to be more effective to those kids who was getting it and understood it from that perspective. Then you have the resources. Everybody within the city of Savannah and in Chatham County, started to come together, started to have conversations where you can have programs like DEEP that come into the Building Bridges program. You have other mentoring groups that are around the city that are able to come into different schools and help with that mentoring process that Mr. Hall has been talking about, to give the kids an opportunity to talk to someone that has no biases to what they're doing, almost like a therapist coming in, someone that they can talk to about the situation, about what's going on, to give them an adult voice to talk to other adults about helping them and getting them resources outside of talking to quote unquote the school officials, because sometimes school officials are not always the ones who kids want to talk to. They do want to talk to someone that doesn't have anything to do with the school. But it does help by having these resources in the schools that will give us an opportunity to put that right back into our kids when we get that information out of what you said, the resources that are coming in. And there are plenty of resources. I can't name them all, but I do know there are a lot of resources interacting with our students before school and after school and during school. So they are, those that are that know about those resources, that are getting the help. I actually see that happening on a day-to-day basis.
Gotcha. I can name a few, and I'm sure that Marie and Julius can chime in. And Tanya Howard Hall says, yes, we had to reimagine school. And you named a few, Building Bridges, the special ed teachers that are now coming on board, REP, Work Readiness Enrichment Program, DEEP. You also have Front Porch and Park Place. And since I've been working with, since I've been working with system impacted youth, I've seen a number of nonprofits come on, even the Salvation Army, Goodwill, and what's that one right there? That's oh Lord, what's the Miss Trice is over there. Oh my goodness, I can't think of the school right now. But what I see is there are people coming out the woodworks to help. What I would like for you to do is tell them or us how we can be of assistance.
Of assistance, time. Most kids, I would say that when it doesn't matter how much time you put into a student. If you're not consistent, you lose them. You could come every Tuesday for 10 minutes. Do you realize that kid is going to look for you every Tuesday for those 10 minutes? They're going to look forward to those 10 minutes. They're going to know what they want to say in those 10 minutes. They're going to know how they want to interact with you, what they want to talk to you about. They want to be a part of what you have going on with them for 10 minutes. And anytime you can be consistent with whatever how much time you have to spend with any student, if you're going to volunteer, make sure you're consistent. Make sure if you're going to go on Monday that your schedule is 110% clear every Monday or every Tuesday or every Wednesday or whenever that is, because that is where the impact lies. That's where you see the most impact.
So do you have information? We're going to put that in the chat too for those who would like to be of assistance. I know you have talented individuals with power that they're looking for males. Julia said it.
Yeah, he said males, yes.
It's so hard to find men. As a matter of fact, Tanya just sent me a text and she says, what do you think? And this question is to you, Doctor. She says, what do you think about dads on duty? It's a group of about 40 dads who roam the campus. Are you familiar with that?
Yes, let me tell you something about dads on duty. Dads on duty allow not just young men, but young women without fathers as well see men in a not just a positive role, but a responsible role. And that is so key. Responsibility and accountability creates motivation, inspiration, and positivity. When you see men being responsible for whatever they decided to be responsible for, and they're holding themselves accountable to that, that makes the biggest impact on any young mind, especially a young mind who has not been introduced to that. They look for it, they want it. I can tell you right now that half of those students know exactly how many dads are out there. And if they're missing one or two, somebody should get, hey, you guys had 40 yesterday. You only had 37. What's going on? They notice that. They take notice that, and they feel safe. It's a comforting and a very safe feeling to have that, that going on at the school at any given time, or any school at any given time. When Mr. Hall said, I'm going to go back to you, Mr. Hall, one more time. Anytime you can have men who are taking responsibility for any plot of land, or just any school, any dads that are out there that are taking responsibility by showing up to the schools, having a voice at the school, being accountable to their kid and other kids as well, being responsible, to their kids and other kids as well. It's a major impact. It's a major, major impact to have men show up and show out.
Awesome.
Marie just
I'm
said,
sitting here. Hey, I'm sitting here listening. You all from down there in Savannah, in that area, Savannah, Georgia. I'm up here in North Carolina. But it's a similar situation going on in the communities here as well. You know what I mean? And the same educational system. The formats are pretty much the same, but similar. You know what I mean? But they all different. But it still boils down to the true value of it is the children, it's the youth, it's the community, it's the village. You know what I'm saying? Whether it's in Savannah, whether it's here in Wilson, North Carolina, whether it's wherever, you know what I'm saying? It's the same system dedicated, you know what I'm saying, and promoted and targeted to the community, and specifically the Black community. So I always bring this question to the people, like, where do we see this going with all these programs that we're trying to do to make positive change, whether it's in the community, whether it's in the household, whether it's in the school system? Where do we see all this change in the next 5 to 10 years? What do you have to say about that, Dr.?
I would say, first and foremost, if you want to see real change, don't bite off more than you can chew. Know exactly what you can do and how effective you can be with what the resources that you have that you can do. Because there's plenty of, look, we always need resources, and we don't need to shun resources out. But make sure that if all I can handle is 10 kids, let me make sure that I'm going to do the job with these 10 kids, that I know that I can make an impact on them, and let the next resource do that, and the next resource do that, and so on and so forth. In the next 5 years, I see it being, if we can hone in on that, we can be extremely successful. Especially starting in the elementary school. I do believe in front loading. I do believe in starting in the elementary, catch them while they're young, and give them a lasting impression. I have lasting impressions of the men who targeted my life and did a lot of things, positive things in my life in that elementary sector. And so when I went to middle school, I was looking for those same men, and I found them. They were there. Continue to keep pouring into me over and over. So if you have a resource, and say you have a group of 40 men in your organization, then you should have 20 men at the middle school, 20 men at the high, you should have them split out everywhere throughout the schools, because your organization is going to make an impact. And that's how you recruit the ones when they get old enough. It's like, you know what? Hey, Mr. Hall's program, I never really met him, but I met all the dudes that was in his program that helped me get through high school. And I want to be a part of that. I want to give back. I want to put back into the Hall program, and that's the beauty of it. It's the ripple effect. I might not ever meet Julius Hall in his organization, but because of the young men that he's poured into and that's poured into me, I know his name and I know what he does. And so I want to be a part of that, because now I can wear that like a badge of honor. And that's another thing, giving young men an opportunity to be something proud of.
Right. You said it earlier. You said, hold on, Joyce. You said it earlier, which was very important. You said that the middle school, that's the trap off. That's the trap off era.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? Like you just said, that's where it started at, in the middle school, in elementary school. That's the trap off era. So we catch them at that era, at that age group. You know what I'm saying? I think in the next 5 to 10 years, we start them off with that. By that time, they reach the teenage, adult life, bypass all of that incarceration, bypass all of that gang violence, bypass all that negative stuff in the community.
Do you realize how important it is? What I said earlier, do you realize how important it is to give a kid 5 minutes or 15 minutes on a specific day that they'll look for you? They'll want to make sure that you're proud of them. They'll want to make sure that they're doing something good, especially for a young man who doesn't have a father in the home, how important that is. And then guess what? You got to be, and this is the reason why you got to be very careful, because the moment you don't show up or you stop showing up, then man, you just abandon him like everybody else. And that just throw him in a tailspin. So guess what? Guess who's on the corner waiting to show me love?
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. How do you get the help from the men that are relatable and relevant? There are organizations called Credible Messengers, Mentors, or Life Navigators, Good Guides. There are so many credible mentor groups that are out there that are trying to give their assistance, but there are some background issues. We ought to know that the very ones who started the problem are now trying to be a solution to that problem, and their testimonies are relevant and relatable. How do we help them get the opportunity?
I actually think, and I'll tell you, one of the things that Building Bridges has does with exactly what you're talking about. You invite them in to give those motivational speeches. You invite them in to give the talks. We've had plenty of people that come in with colorful backgrounds that have been able to, facilitate a group session, to talk to our kids, to let them know, that this is where I started and this is where I ended up. But all those different organizations that you just named, all those different resources that you just named, they have to reach out to those places, to allow them to come in, and just give them the platform to say, hey, we're going to come in, got a group of 5. Well, each guy's going to talk maybe 15 or 20 minutes to your students, to that program, and then allow, and this is key, allow the students to gravitate to those they feel they connect with. That's important. Just putting somebody in front of them does not help at all. Allow them to ask the questions, and most students aren't going to ask questions till it's over. And they don't want to raise their hand in the middle of it. They're going to ask questions when it's over, and allow that space and that opportunity for them to gravitate to those that they feel like said something that struck a chord that can change their life.
Awesome. We get ready to turn this corner. So as we get ready to come to an end, I want you, Dr. Hayden, to speak to 2 types of people. Number 1, educators. There are many men and women who are on the front line, as you are, Dr. Wright, and that are doing everything they can, and sometimes they feel like they are not seeing results or that they're underappreciated. I would like for you, as we come to the conclusion, to speak a word of encouragement to them. However, I also want you to speak to returning citizens, just as impacted and just as involved men and women who come home and they are positive, they are productive, and now they just want to share their lived experiences. I want you to encourage them as well, to let them know that they can be a part of that village. So speak to 2 of those audiences for us.
Okay, so I'll speak to the educators first, and I'll say this. We have come through the most unprecedented time that we've ever have in the history of America as in our lifetimes thus far. And it has taken a toll on every last one of us. I don't care if, we like being at home teaching, or we like being in the building, whatever the case may be. I would actually say that we need to know how to get the time we deserve to ourselves, and we have to learn how to rejuvenate ourselves. We have to learn how to remotivate, re-inspire. Whatever inspired us in the beginning might not be the same thing now. So we have to see what we're doing is making a difference. Know that what we're doing is making a difference, that every kid that's coming in that building is looking for something from us. And it's hard to see that because a lot of times we're the ones going through it as well. Okay, so we have to know how to take the weekend, and completely give ourselves an opportunity to recharge. Because Monday morning we're coming back into the building, and those kids are coming right back to us. We have to remember that those kids didn't recharge, that the trauma that they came to our building with on Monday is the same trauma that they're going to on Friday when we get out, will be the same trauma that they come back to us on Monday again. So we have to be ready for that and know that that's what we're dealing with. Know that the kid that's cursing you out, know that the kid that's trying to fight you, know that the kid that is just absolutely giving you hell every day, that's the kid that's screaming out the most, that's yelling the most, that this is what's going on. I have no one to relate to, no one to talk to. And let's try to find that particular kid or those children an opportunity or a space to have a voice to let some of this stuff out, because it's like some of them, it's a ticking time bomb, and they need a platform. The ones that we know that need a platform, they need a platform to get that out, and an opportunity to create that space for them, to give them that opportunity to let that go so that they can start dealing with some of the things that not that they're dealing with now. We have a lot of kids that are still dealing with 2020. We have a lot of kids that are still dealing with 2020. We're halfway through 2021, and we have a lot of kids that are still, still back there. So allowing them to come forward, full frontal, before we go into 22, to have a plan to say, hey, it's all individualized. And I'll say that it's all individualized, but it can be corporate. It definitely can be corporate. To those that are getting out that don't know what to do or how to do it or where to go, I would say this. The people that are in front of you that are giving you information, they're giving you information. You have to take that information and reach out, because to be honest with you, I don't know who you are. And in order for me to know who you are, you got to reach out. So if somebody's giving you a pamphlet and say, hey, call this number, you got to call the number. If somebody's saying, hey, call this resource or call that resource, you got to call that resource, because that resource will lead you to people like us that are on this call right now. That resource will lead you to people like us, and then people like us will lead them to other people that we know that are really invested in helping you and seeing you succeed. And that's the first step. You got to take the first step. You can't sit at home, and just wait for one of us to knock on the door, because 9 times out of 10, it won't happen. So I can tell you, if you take that first step and make that phone call to whatever resource that you've been provided, whatever way or whatever direction that they're trying to get you to go in that direction, try it out, see that it's working for you, see that it can work for you. Everything that's being put in front of you, it actually can work for you. You know why it can work for you? Because you're going to work it. And you're going to make sure that Dr. Hayden is going to help you because he said he would. You're going to make sure that Mr. Hall is going to help you, that Campbell is going to help you, that the AB founder, the CEO of Incarceration to Incorporation is going to help you. You're going to make sure of that because you're going to make the connection. And that's what it's all about with that, Pete. The connections are how you succeed.
Thank you, brother. I appreciate that. As we come to a close, Julius, AB, of course, I want you to say what you got to say in closing, but I just want to leave this thought process. I appreciate you, Dr. Hayden, for coming in, allowing us to know that education is a remedy for incarceration. I always love to say this slogan. This is true, that we may have all started out wrong, but we can all finish strong. And I see that that's what all of us have in common on this panel right now. We are finishing strong, and we want to help others to finish strong as well. Marie also. So I just turn it over right now to Julius and AB. Again, thanks, Dr. Hayden.
One last thing. If we can teach our children how to turn their pain into passion, we win.
That's correct. That's correct.
Those are my parting words.
Well, I just want to say that, one thing that you did say in your closing just now, Dr. Hayden, was very important. And Julius Campbell, he talks about it every single day. It's connecting the dots. Yeah. You were absolutely correct. I can't help you if I don't know about you.
Right.
So you got to reach out to me for help so that I can be a resource to you. You never know who I know that might can help you.
Yes.
You know, so that's what it's all about. You can go anywhere from where you at. Don't think that you can't. Society wants you to think that it's over, that you're no good to the world anymore, but that's not true.
It's not true. That's right.
Your debt is paid, move on. But you got to believe and seek that help because it's out there. Somebody help you. You just can't give up because somebody said no at first. You got to keep striking that stone, and things will turn for you.
Yes.
AB?
Hey, Dr. Hayden, everything you said from the beginning of the show all the way to the ending of the show was on point, and is exactly what we needed, exactly the reason why I started Incarceration to Incorporation, because of the resources that is available out there. You brought on a lot of resources. You brought on a lot of thought process on how to get resources, and this is what this platform is all about. So I thank you for coming on to give all the information that you got to give about the education system, about the youth and especially the juveniles. You know, it all starts back. It don't start forward. It starts back. You know what I'm saying? On the back is those at the back of the line are the juveniles. You know what I'm saying? So everything that you brought up from the beginning to the end is exactly the reason why I started Incarceration to Incorporation.
Good.
And I introduced it to these brothers here who was able to see what I wanted out of this. And as you can see, every Friday from 6 to 7, these brothers and Marie has taken on the opportunity and they run with it. They took it on and they doing a hell of a job. So I thank you for coming on, Dr. Hayden, with all of those resources, with all those good words, all those encouraging words, and they enlighten. A lot of that stuff enlightened me. Like I said a few minutes ago, you all in Savannah, Georgia, in that area, and but I can relate. I can relate because that goes on in every community throughout America. It goes on in all the communities, especially the Black community. So that's my point on that. That's the reason why this platform is so important. And I thank you for coming on, giving all the information that you got to give. Appreciate
You're
you.
welcome.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Hayden. We're going to extend about 10 more minutes after you leave. We have a
Okay.
caller on the line that's calling and wants to tell his story, because that's some of the stuff that we do. We have callers from time to time call from prison to tell us what's going on in there, anything that we can help with, to tell their story, to express their concerns about what's happening there. Because believe it or not, a lot of guys help to guide guys and steer them right while they're in there. So
Right. Yes.
that's part of it also. We can't think that we can do it all out here, because
Yes.
some people are going to slip through and go, and they got to have that guidance.
Man, that's
to
a good
come.
point.
Yeah, right. So, but we appreciate you, sir.
Okay.
And
Thank
we'll
you for
look
having
to
me
have
on,
you back.
Julius. Yes. Anytime you need, Mr. Campbell know how to get in contact with me. I see him twice a week. So anytime, I'll be more than happy. Thanks so much for having me on. I really appreciate the opportunity.
All right.
All right.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
All right, caller, you on the air.
Yeah, hi, everyone. My name is Terry Robbins, and I notably go by the name Chanton. And I know one of the guests, he and I are close friends, really close friends. I grew up in Wilson, North Carolina. So I was talking to my guy, my friend, AB, and he thought that it'd be a good idea if I called in and share a few things with you guys. So I just want to say thank you for having me.
Thank you for calling.
Thanks for coming on, Terry. Hey, look, tell the people, man, what it is that you're calling about, where you located at, and some of the things that we can do to put your story out there and to give you some of the resources that we have to help your case and what you got going on. Let the people know that's viewing, man, some of the things that we need to know about what's going on with your case.
All right, so like I said, I'm from Wilson. I'm born and raised there, and I think my story is certainly one of dysfunction. You know, a lot of us in our neighborhoods, we come from single-parent homes. My mom was a single parent. My dad was available, but not always around, you know. And I had a lot of influences in my life, especially my older brother. He's like 2 years older than me. And I guess he and I both suffered from the same symptoms, that we didn't always have a stable male figure in our life. We had uncles and those things, but my dad wasn't always around. And so my brother took to kind of follow some influences in the streets, you know, guys that were older than him. By me being only 2 years younger, I looked at him as a role model. I looked at him as an influencer. So the things that he kind of got into kind of steered me in some directions, you know, that I would have chosen could I do things differently. But as it is, I kind of ended up in the streets, you know, at a really young age. And I was a drug dealer. And there's some other mischievous things like vandalism and those type of things, for the sake of being cool, for the sake of being accepted. Because I think that I was kind of put on the outs with a lot of social groups, and I was willing to do anything to fit in. And so I found myself doing some stints, you know, in prison. Again, for the sake of acceptability. I just wanted to be popular. You know, so it was all about the reputation and those things. And I had some years when I was out in the streets. I worked steady jobs, but the jobs didn't suit me. You know, my calling was the streets. So I just kind of stayed out. My later years, I was out in the streets, hustling, gun toting, doing all the things that I thought fit the mold, fit the gangster mold, the thug mold. And unfortunately, there were some circumstances that took place where my name came up in a murder trial, in a murder charge. And it led me to death row. And so since I've been here, lately I've done a lot of podcasts, and there's this theme that we are putting out there. That's prison reform. It's redemption after death row. But it's not always the story here. It's not my story here. And one of the stories that seldom gets told is the injustices that's inside the prison walls, the innocent people. There's guys who were here with me on death row for 28 years. They're out there in the streets with you guys right now. So there is salvation and redemption after death row, and that's kind of my story.
All right. Right.
Okay.
So tell everybody how long you been on death row.
So I've been here now 21 years. 21 years. Fighting, doing. So just to give a little perspective, the death row I first came to, it was solemn and it was dark and there was no life here. There was no spirit. There was guys walking around with this idea that if things don't work out for them in their appeals, they would have execution dates. And I've seen executions here. My first 3 or 4 executions, there was this dissociation. I kind of was naive to the process because I didn't see it and I didn't want to believe it, then it wouldn't happen to me. And that went on for a few years. Then I was in a position where there was a guy in a block with me. We lived in the same block. And he was a close friend. And I was so used to seeing him every day that I didn't realize how critical he was to my coping process, to me being able to get through the day. And then his number came up, and then you couldn't hide from the emotion. This was the first time a person that I was close to was facing execution. And he did, in fact, he was executed. So in those 21 years, death row has changed a lot. It used to be this southern place. It was really gloom. There wasn't a lot going on. There was no programs. There was no reason to further educate or instill any type of work ethic in men who were condemned and sentenced to die. But then in 2014, there was this professor, he's a doctor, and his job was to come in, try to repair the mental deterioration of death row. Because I tell you, it certainly is a lot of mental anguish and a mental deterioration each day. And this guy came in and he offered us programs like houses of healing and social psychology and chess clubs. We had drama class. We had speech and debate. We had Toastmasters. We had all these different programs. And then that's when death row took on a different form. And started to see guys who really showed that even after tragedy, we as people are still savage. That there is humanity on death row.
And one thing I know for certain is that time can change anybody if you want to be a part of change. And it seems like you have incorporated that into your mental capacity, that it is a time that we change, because time will make you realize all the mistakes that we've made in our lives. What is the status of your case now?
Well, I am fighting a wrongful conviction. I've been fighting now for 21 years. And again, I tell the story of death row and how what it takes to get through death row. But my story isn't always everyone's story. And my case is in the appeal state, in the stages of my case, and it's in Wilson County Superior Court. It's called the MAR. This is the stage where a lot of guys, if there is a possibility for us to get help, this is usually the best stage. The downside to that is death row cases drag out. They take a long time and they cost the taxpayers lots and lots and lots of money. And an average death row case can take anywhere from 20 years for it to meet its last appeal. I've been on this stage of my appeal for 18 years now, and it hasn't been a lot. It wasn't all positive. Just recently, in the last few months, there's some things that have been developing, some issues that seem like they're really on the up and up, and I'm more hopeful now. One thing I can say is, after 20 years on death row, we love this idea of having hope. A lot of us have strong values, and we have our spiritual values, and we want to say that we believe and we have hope. But after 21 years, it's hard to hold on that long. It's hard to see the bright side. So my process didn't really start from me thinking that this injustice would be undone and that I would see the streets again. Mine was, in fact, the opposite. I believe that I would be executed as an innocent man. I believe there has been innocent men before that has been executed. Certainly there's men here who have taken accountability on their last days and have accept accountability and admitted guilt. But there has been few who have went to their deathbed saying, I'm innocent. And so I believe that that was my end. And I wanted to take initiative in my life for a change. I wanted to be the person that I wanted to be for once, as opposed to being the person that I thought everyone needed me to be.
Okay. All right. Well, you said that you've written books also, right?
Yeah, so there's this book that's out called Criminal Letters, Voices from Death Row. And it's myself and 3 other guys that we want to tell our story because there's a lot of people. So I know about the prison pipeline. And I know there's a lot of kids in our communities who are the next batch they're the next generation up to bat for recidivism and repeat offenders. And so we wanted to take the initiative to give back by sharing our and hoping that there's some people that's on the outside who can read these stories and see some parallel and resonate in some ways, and then hopefully they can gain from our stories, see our outcome, and then possibly invoke change, especially invoke thought. Because there's a lot of kids now that's on the path to destruction, and it's because each generation is responsible for the next. And I came from a failed generation. You know, a lot of guys let us down. And I think that system is being perpetuated. That we are now a generation who isn't taking accountability. Now there are some like you guys. What you're doing is fantastic. You're taking accountability for the next generation. So we here at Death Row want to do the same as well. And that's what Crimson Letters is about.
Crimson
Julius, make sure you put that inside the chat room so that we can, let people know about that book and purchase one or more copies and share that. As you stated, I myself would love to see that book as well generated to different groups when it deals with our justice impacted young people so that they can hear those stories. But I want to say this one thing too. I don't want in no way to minimize what you are enduring. But I do want to say this. Do not allow what other people think about your value to affect yours. As Dr. Hayden stated before he left, recognize the value that you have in life. Whether the courts do not agree or family members or communities, there is value in your life and in the lives of the men on death row. You have to continue to remember that, and with every breath you take, continue to be effective and also a voice for those who need to hear that we must change. And I encourage you with that. Your life has value, period.
Yeah, it is.
It's very inspiring, brother. Very moving, and I appreciate those.
You have 60 seconds remaining.
I appreciate those words you made.
True.
All right, Terry, man. Appreciate you for coming on, man. We're gonna do this again.
Yeah, we'll do you again
Sure.
so we can get your message out. We want to keep a status on update on your case and where it's at. And
Sure.
we're gonna get this book. Yeah, I want to read this book.
To it.
All right, my brother.
You have 30 seconds remaining.
And I want to say really quick, and like I said before, there should have been options like this, and maybe there were when I was coming up, but they weren't always available. But there should have been options like what you guys are doing now, and I applaud you for taking the initiative. You really are changing lives. What you're doing is very impactful, and I appreciate it.
We appreciate you.
Thank you.
Thank you, brother.
Okay.
All
right. Just contact AB, and then we can have you on again whenever AB. Well, it hung up on him, but AB, just get him on whenever so he can tell us part of it and give us an update. He can call in at 7 every time. We can put him on the end of the show so that he can give us that update.
Yeah, very good brother, man. You know what I'm saying? I know the family. I know all of them, man. And just an unfortunate situation that happened to him, over 20 years ago. And he's at Central Prison here in North Carolina. And he's on death row. You know what I mean? So, like you said, he's changed. He's done a lot of things, a lot of programs that he started that the system Central Prison didn't have those programs, and him and a few of the brothers was able to create programs, man, that's helping those that are on death row. So he's changed, and like you said earlier, Julius Cameron, you know what I'm saying? It's not over. You know what I'm saying? It's not over. Even on the inside, it's not over. You know what I mean? It's not over. So the brothers doing good things, man, and we gonna pray and hopefully get some things popping for him, man, and bring him home, or at least get him off of death row and overturn that case, because he is, from my understanding, he is wrongfully accused. You know what I mean?
Right, right. That's right. I want to read the book, so I'm gonna get the book soon. And we encourage everybody else out there to get it. Crimson Letters.
Voices from Death Row.
Voices from Death Row. Get the book. Get the book. Get the book.
Brother name again is Terry Robinson. Brother name again is Terry Robinson. Yeah.
It's by Terry Robertson. Terry Robertson. Crimson Letters.
Yeah.
Voices from Death Row. All right, my brothers. Another great show, and I appreciate y'all. And
hey, I appreciate y'all, man. I appreciate y'all for, again, man, continuing to hold it down. In my absence, I was going for a week.
a week. Yeah, a week.
Yeah, I heard it.
For a long week. You know what I mean? But I appreciate y'all for holding it down, man.
All right.
Yeah, y'all. Hey, what are y'all doing tomorrow, man? I'm gonna have to reach out to y'all on a conference call or something, so we can get this other ball going, man. For this reality show. So y'all.
Oh yeah, we do. Y'all stay tuned. We are in the works of doing a reality show for Incarceration to Incorporation. We are in talks to do a reality show, Incarceration to Incorporation. We'll give you more details on it next week, I guess, and after we have our discussion on it. So we'll update y'all on that later.
Hey, Joey.
See you good night.
All right, y'all have a good one.
All right, see y'all later.